I've always said this, Brett, if I can't go home and explain it to the people of West Virginia, I can't vote for it. And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
You're done. This is a no.
This is a no.
Well, that was Senator Joe Manchin, who has served as a massive obstacle in passing the social spending agenda that Biden purports to want. And he essentially placed that nail in the coffin over the weekend, where he announced that he will not be voting in favor of the Build Back Better agenda, essentially reneging on the alleged promises he had made to Biden, which anyone paying attention should not be surprised by. Now, he offered ridiculous excuses for why he's against the social spending plan. Inflation is one of those excuses. Let's watch.
I have tried everything I know to do, and the president has worked diligently. He's been wonderful to work with. He knows I've had concerns and the problems I've had, and you know, the thing that we should all be is directing our attention towards the variant, the COVID that we have coming back at us in so many different aspects and different ways. It's affecting our lives again. We have inflation that basically could really harm a lot of Americans, and especially those who are most needy and having a hard time struggling right now. So I think that's where our attention needs to be directed towards immediately.
Now, we've explained multiple times how inflation is not due to an increase in social spending. There are a litany of other issues at play, including so-called supply chain issues, the fact that the Federal Reserve was essentially printing money and handing it over to banks and private equity firms, who then invested that money into real estate, thus driving up the cost of properties and rent. But that's beside the point. We know that Manchin is full of it. He's lying to the American people, and that he is essentially completely captured by corporate interests and his own financial interests, which we can get to in more detail in just a second. But apparently Manchin got one of his staffers to go to President Joe Biden 30 minutes prior to that interview to essentially let the president know that he would be voting no on the Build Back Better agenda. The White House pretended to be very outraged by this, and Jen Psaki issued a statement saying the following. Weeks ago, Senator Manchin committed to the president at his home in Wilmington to support the Build Back Better framework that the president then subsequently announced. Senator Manchin pledged repeatedly to negotiate on finalizing the framework in good faith. In his comments on Fox and written statement, if his comments on Fox and written statement indicate an end to that effort, they represent a sudden and inexplicable reversal in his position and a breach of his commitments to the president and the senator's colleagues in the House and Senate. Senator Manchin will have to explain to those families paying $1,000 a month for insulin why they need to keep paying that instead of $35 for that vital medicine. He will have to explain to the nearly 2 million women who would get the affordable daycare they need to return to work why he opposes a plan to get them the help they need. Maybe Senator Manchin can explain to millions of children who have been lifted out of poverty, in part due to the child tax credit, why he wants to end a program that is helping achieve this milestone. We cannot. Now, Manchin responded to Jen Psaki. He did not take kindly to the tough pushback. We'll get to that in just a second, but Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah. So it looks like Manchin is going to go for a very familiar strategy. Well, look, my God, I was so honest and earnest, and I tried so hard, but somebody offended me at some point, and so because of my hurt feelings, plus my donors, I can't do this anymore. So I'm going to give you a longer quote here from Manchin because this went back and forth. The White House statement that Anna just read got under Manchin's skin. And he's like, how dare you? Just because I killed your entire agenda, now you tweaked me? This is not allowed. I am the most powerful man on earth. So he said in an interview in West Virginia, I knew what they could and could not do. They just never realized it. That's him saying, I knew what I was going to allow them to do, and they wouldn't realize that I'm the president and he's not. That's basically what he's saying there. And he said, referring to White House staffers involved in the plan. He said, because they figure surely to God we can move one person, surely we can badger and beat one person up, surely we can get enough protesters to make that person uncomfortable enough. Well, guess what? I'm from West Virginia. I'm not from where they're from, and they can just beat the living crap out of people and they're gonna be submissive. They know the real reason for what happened. They won't tell you, and I'm not going to. So wait, Joe Manchin, what is the real reason? Apparently policy isn't it. You just said, oh, you stood up to the protesters and apparently your feelings are hurt. So what's the real reason? What's the real reason, Joe? Total lies. The real reason is his donors, and he's using hurt feelings as, oh, I was going to, it's the chocolate bunny excuse. I was gonna give you the chocolate bunny, but you said this, and I'll be, oh, you sent someone to my mansion, my yacht mansion. Oh, that's why I'm not gonna do anything that would help the people of West Virginia. By the way, he's a total and utter liar. Polling indicates that huge provisions, almost all the provisions in Build Back Better are enormously popular in the state of West Virginia. Joe Manchin is a liar. Okay, go ahead.
So Joe Manchin, as we've talked about in great detail on this show, also personally profits off fossil fuel companies. In fact, he made $500,000 just last year off of Enersystems, which is a coal company. Remember, the Build Back Better agenda was supposed to be the government's effort in doing something in response to the climate emergency. He doesn't like that because that puts his own personal profits in jeopardy. But look, we know who Manchin is. None of this is surprising to us. What's infuriating is that his actions seem to be surprising to the Democratic Party and even some progressives. So I want to talk about that because there were 6 Justice Democrats in the House who voted against the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the corporate handout bill that Manchin wanted. And they understood that voting in favor of it and passing the bipartisan infrastructure bill would do away with all the leverage they had. But some progressives, like progressive leadership, Representative Pramila Jayapal, thought, no, let's just go along with the infrastructure bill because Biden has promised us that he will get a yes vote from Manchin on the social spending package. It didn't work out that way. So I want to go to Pramila Jayapal, who said this. Today, Senator Manchin has betrayed his commitment not only to the president and Democrats in Congress, but most importantly to the American people. He routinely touts that he is a man of his word, but he can no longer say that. West Virginians and the country see clearly who he is. No, but people have seen clearly who he is. I mean, it's been so clear to anyone paying any attention, which is why it was so important to avoid voting in favor of that bipartisan infrastructure bill. It was essentially a game of chicken, and progressive leadership caved, along with, of course, Democratic leadership in the House with Nancy Pelosi. Now, apparently Pramila Jayapal has no regrets. Ida Chavez from The Intercept tweeting the following: Jayapal says she has no regrets about the Progressive Caucus letting the bipartisan infrastructure bill pass and relying on Manchin's word alone. In fact, she said, quote, had we not passed the infrastructure bill, I actually think that would have been the day the senator said the Build Back Better Act is done, Jayapal continued. I think he would have walked away. And then finally, Jayapal thinks progressives' strategy on Build Back Better worked really well. I think our strategy was exactly the right strategy.
No, she's gotta go. She's gotta go. That's an absurd statement. How could your strategy on Build Back Better be the exact right strategy if we don't have Build Back Better? If the bill didn't pass at all? No, that's absurd. No rational human being can believe that. That's like Trumpian. The bill that didn't pass was a great bill, and since we didn't pass it, we were great in performing our jobs in passing it. That makes no sense. Stop doing alternative reality. It's ridiculous. You sound like a Trump staffer. Oh, the bill we didn't pass was perfect strategy. No, your strategy was, look, now you're forcing us to say things in a ruder way because apparently we have to be clearer. Your strategy was an epic failure. There's no way around it. And it's not like we couldn't tell. We told you ahead of time, don't give away your leverage. We said it 1,000 times. And no, Manchin would have walked away if we didn't give him his bill. You're supposed to walk away and not give him his bill so that you retain leverage and you can go back to the negotiating table and get both bills. If you don't understand simple politics, then you shouldn't be the leader of a giant caucus in the House. Because I don't believe it. I think Pramila Jayapal is perfectly smart. I think what she's doing here is, I screwed it up and I went with a strategy for my own ego and because I wanted to be Speaker of the House and I thought if I played ball, they would make me Speaker. And now it blew up on me. Of course they were lying to me. Of course they played me for a sucker. And of course I misled my caucus. So why don't you just say it? No, I'm done with any of this. No progressive media is gonna pretend that you nailed it here. We're not right-wing media and we're not mainstream media. We tell the truth.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to mention is, oftentimes the rebuttal to the argument you just made, Cenk, is, well, Manchin didn't really care that much about the bipartisan infrastructure bill. All right, we'll call his bluff on that. First off, let's say that's true. Okay, then the so-called worst case scenario would be you don't pass either bill. Great, I think that's actually better than what we have now, where you have the passage of a giant corporate handout bill that will privatize public infrastructure, but you don't have the social spending bill. So what? I guess Biden failed, right? And that's on Biden. It's on Biden for not fighting for a social spending package, okay? Because remember, if they didn't pass anything, the argument would be, look at that. The Biden presidency is now in jeopardy because progressives blocked the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Damn right. And if I were a progressive, what I would do day in, day out is talk about the provisions in that bipartisan infrastructure bill that essentially make it nothing more than corporate welfare.
Besides which, none of it is true. Even if you loved the infrastructure bill or liked it enough, when you threatened to block it, Manchin was irate. He was all over TV and he was doing, and he's like, how dare you, this is outrageous. It looked like he cared. The minute that you passed the bill that he wanted, that his donors paid for, all of a sudden he was like, I don't care about anything. I don't care. No, I'm not gonna pass it. What are you gonna do now, huh? There's a stark difference in how he was acting. And if you're pretending otherwise, again, you're lying and it's super obvious. And I wanna address 3 more people. Pelosi and Schumer. You guys said that you had it, you figured it out. You were gonna get Manchin to vote for it in the Senate. So I guess Pelosi's not a master legislator. Hey, mainstream media reporters who like to kiss the ass of the powerful, can you now admit she is not a master legislator? She said she was gonna get it done, she didn't get it done. It is an epic failure of Nancy Pelosi. No, Cenk, you're being unfair to the powerful, the poor powerful. How could you criticize them when they've done nothing but failure? How could you criticize them? You're gonna go mainstream media, you're gonna go cover their ass? You're gonna do marketing for them, right? Chuck Schumer, what'd you do? Loser, nothing, total loser, okay? All right, Cenk, you can't say they're losers because they did nothing. Yeah, no, that's the definition of a loser. You said you were gonna pass the bill, you didn't. Hence, you are an indisputable and empirical loser, which brings us to Joe Biden. You know what his poll numbers are now? 41%, and that's before Manchin bitch slapped him. And he did, that's exactly what that is. Politically, he said, oh yeah, I'm not gonna do your bill. And you said to everybody to trust Biden, and now you look like an idiot and a weakling. What are you gonna do about it? Sit there and bleed? That's what Manchin just told you, Joe Biden. And you know what you're gonna do. You ain't gonna pull no corn pop, okay? You're gonna go, okay, Joe, I love you, Joe. And you know what the White House is putting out today? Oh, no, we're still really good friends with Joe Manchin.
It's amazing, I know.
Losers.
It's so pathetic.
Total and obvious losers.
So I also want to do a quick flashback to an interview that happened on November 5th here at TYT. It featured a conversation between Cenk and Progressive Representative Ro Khanna, who was wrong on this issue. And look, again, I just want to reiterate, anyone who is not naive and who is paying close attention to how the negotiations were going could have seen this coming from a mile away. Unfortunately, some of the lawmakers who typically agree with us politically were oblivious to what was really going on. Unfortunately, Ro Khanna was one of them. Let's watch.
Now remember, Joe Manchin said that he gives you no promise at all that he's gonna vote yes. Right. So then he turns around and goes, well, I'm not gonna vote for it. I didn't promise you that I'd vote for it, so it's dead. You voted for my bill, you're a sucker. I'm not voting for your bill. I told you I wasn't gonna vote for your bill. What do you say?
I don't take that because the president has said that he will deliver those 50 votes, and I don't think Manchin will tank the Biden presidency.
So now that you have zero leverage, especially because you guys are not willing to threaten their reputation.
No, I'm not convinced that Manchin and Sinwar are that much. Let's get the bipartisan infrastructure bill passed. Certainly Manchin. I mean, I think part of it is just let's not spend money. So I'm not convinced we have that much leverage that he really wants the infrastructure bill. But that's a
okay.
All
right, but whatever little leverage that is, would it instantly disappear? So if you have the vote today or you have it a week from now in the House, it doesn't really matter because either way your leverage is gone in the Senate. So that's point one. And point two, you say, and every Democrat in the House, and the progressives, as everybody knows, I'm a progressive. I'm fans of the progressive legislators. You've been on our show many times. You've been incredibly generous with it. You've been honest. We appreciate all that. But since you guys are not willing to threaten outing their donors, there goes the second piece of leverage. So you have absolutely no leverage and you have no promise from Manchin. So I'm asking you if you're right. Wouldn't you be right that then Manchin could eviscerate the Build Back Better bill and go, well, I didn't tell you I wasn't gonna eviscerate it, and you knew I was gonna eviscerate it, so I did. I took out every popular provision there is because my donors didn't want it.
I don't believe he will do that because he would then have made a commitment to the president that was false.
Okay, that was the day of the vote, and I want to give credit one more time to Roe for coming on. That is the position you just heard from him was not his alone. It was the overwhelming majority of the House Democrats that voted that way and that believed that. Only 6 voted no and did not believe that. That was the 6 Just Democrats, AOC, Bowman, Bush, etc. Right? So Ro Khanna there was the one at least honest enough to come on air and say his position. Everybody else hid. But now the second part of it, was it wrong? Well, you saw with your own eyes. He said, we're gonna vote yes because we trust Biden and Manchin will do the right thing because Biden said he will. Now, you saw my face when he said that. You heard my questions. You can watch the whole interview. I said that was total nonsense. The reason we're telling you that, guys, is not because Anna and I are the smartest people in the world.
We're pretty
it's
smart,
because,
though.
God bless, okay. But it's obvious. The only reason why we have to state it as over the top, like, hello, how obvious is it? Is because mainstream media and Democrats in Congress say 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. Oh my God, we're so surprised. Manchin said no. Oh, we shouldn't have trust Biden didn't work. Oh my God, we're so surprised. Are you joking? You're gaslighting the whole country. No one believes in you anymore. You're a joke, mainstream media. You didn't know Manchin was gonna, how did I know? Then okay, then all the media and the entire Democratic caucus has to come and say, well, I guess Cenk and Anna are geniuses. They're the best political prognosticators in the whole world because we were all shocked that Manchin said no and that he killed the bill, and they knew it from the beginning. They said it actually probably about right when it began, nearly a year ago. And we've been saying it the entire, I show you that because we had Ro Khanna on. But Anna and I have said it, I don't, dozen times, 24 times on the air. Everybody who watches the Young Turks knows it. How do we know better than you? Every single reporter in the country, how do we know better than you?
Because we don't just believe people in positions of power. I mean, the whole point of working in news, working as a quote unquote journalist, is to challenge people in positions of power, challenge what politicians are saying, not just take what they say at face value and serve as their personal stenographers or publicists. That's what we keep seeing in traditional media over and over and over again. So are they genuinely surprised? Yeah, they're surprised because they don't do the legwork, they don't actually challenge power, and they just take what these politicians say at face value. I mean, the tea leaves were there. The tea leaves were strong. I mean, that was some matcha action. Okay?
It wasn't even tea leaves. The guy wrote it on a wall. He spray painted it on the Congress. He said, I'm not gonna necessarily vote for this bill. So no, look guys, the reason we tell you this is because don't believe their gaslighting. Get everybody off of cable news. Tell your parents, no, MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, NPR, all these mainstream media outlets, they're all lying to you. Oh, they didn't know, man. And to this day, they still don't talk about his donors.
It's amazing.
They pretended he did it out of principle because the people of West Virginia. Here, I'm gonna read you the poll of the people of West Virginia because it's to prove this is not progressives saying it. Okay, so on lowering drug prices, that polls at about 90% in West Virginia. Paid family leave, 70% approval. This is West Virginia, not the whole country. Child care, 66%. Insurance subsidies, 65%. Expanded child tax credit, specifically 61%. Increasing the IRS budget to go after wealthy taxpayers, 60%. Universal pre-K, 59%. All of these provisions are intensely popular in the state of West Virginia. If you see a reporter or a lying anchor on television who tell you that it is not popular in West Virginia, go on their Twitter feed, email them, do whatever you're gonna do and say, I'm sick of your lies. Stop lying to everybody. But the one that gets me over the top is Jayapal saying we nailed it.
Yep.
If this is what victory, if you think this is victory, well then you definitely shouldn't be leader, because apparently you think failure is victory. I don't want any more failure. What progressive priorities have you passed? You gave up on $15 minimum wage, which was the lowest priority we had. You gave up on it on day one. You gave up on every one of our priorities. Now you want us and everybody else to do marketing for you? No, no deal. We are not like the rest of the media. We do not lie on behalf of the powerful. We hold the powerful accountable. Jayapal, Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, they're all failures. They got nothing and they had a terrible strategy. If you believe them at all, that is the best case scenario. More realistic scenario is they all work for corporate donors and they're sitting here trying to put a lipstick on a pig the day after their failure.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.